As I'm living this kind of new life, it's been about a year after I left Elle, and I had these epiphanies about modesty and living an authentic life, like living in line with the desires of our hearts and the people that we want to be, and actually trying to live that out. I thought, gosh, why is there no alternative? I've never seen a high quality, beautiful fashion magazine that has modest fashion, has awesome relationship advice. It's actually good. It's not just sex tips. And so I think along with feeling these feelings of why is there nothing else out there, I also was really aware of what the media, for the first time, I think my eyes were opened a little. I was so sensitive and raw to the messages that the media is telling us. I think it's no news. I think every woman, they go to see Cosmo and they kind of they either buy it with a grain of salt, thinking, okay, yeah, I know it's dumb, but I still love to read it. Or it's kind of a guilty pleasure. Or we buy Glamour, we buy any magazine, and we still buy it, but kind of know that it's the actual relationship advice and the things that they're telling us are a bit not quite true. But yet we buy it. And I think ultimately, when I boil it down, I really think that women ultimately, they want to be loved and they want to be beautiful. So they're looking for visual messages in our society, in our culture, of what does that look like? How do I navigate this in my own life? And so I kind of wanted to let you guys know, set up context too. I think what does the media say? What are its effects on women? Magazines especially have the ability, a very powerful ability, to hold up what is desirable, what is beautiful, what is successful, how women should be. I think we have all these expectations now. We think women are so liberal now, we're so empowered. It's really? Are we really that much more confident, that much more happy? And in reality, we did a lot of research, and it's actually since 1970, female happiness has declined unbelievably, more than ever before in recorded history, and anxiety and depression have risen among women more than ever before. It's really crazy. And some sobering statistics. I can't memorize numbers at all, so I have to pull this up. 75% of teenage girls feel depressed, guilty, and shameful after just 3 minutes of reading a fashion magazine, any fashion magazine. And if you think about it, 3 minutes doesn't really leave you that much time to read. You're just flipping through the images, and that's the power of visual messaging. Not just content, but the photos and the types of things that we're seeing that's fed to us. It's beautiful. Some other really great ones, I think, is 69% of women say magazine pictures influence their ideal body shape. 65% of American women report disordered eating behaviors. 68%, this one actually is it's really hard to think about, but 68% of girls aged 6 to 9 years old identify they did a study recently, and they showed 2 dolls. One doll was very hypersexualized, and one doll was a princess doll, modestly dressed, a traditional doll. And they showed the 2 dolls to girls aged 6 to 9. They asked, which one do you want to be? 68% said they wanted to be the sexy one. 6 years old. And I think the message that we're being fed, I think there's a confusion between sexiness, being sexy, and being beautiful. Those 2 words have become interchangeable in our language, in our day-to-day language, in the language that we read, and what we see. And I think we all know, seeing the headlines that say, look hot now, lose fat fast, 65,000 ways to please your man, feel more confident now, doesn't really ring true. It's really a false sense of confidence. I remember back in school, I would buy these magazines, and I worked for a magazine like this, and I never got it. I'm how am I supposed to feel more confident? It never made any sense to me, and I always felt like I was lacking. And the reason is magazines actually are based on the premise, mainstream media and magazines are based on the premise that you're not enough. That they tell you that you're super sexy and confident, but they're really telling you you're not enough, so you need to be more this, less that, tweak this, tighten this. I mean, it goes on. And I think, you know, the popularity of the whole Dove campaign, the Dove Real Beauty campaign, a lot of you have probably seen the videos that are traveling around like crazy and all the great studies and the work that they've done. That's actually the basis. A lot of those statistics I read to you are from the Dove campaign for Real Beauty. And there's been a lot of campaigns and awareness the message of media, and for women it's always been talked about being so bad, but there wasn't really anyone doing anything about it. And so that's why we started Verily. So that kind of gives you the backdrop, the context of what the media is telling us, where I was at, my new understanding of the real dignity and beauty of women, the idea of the feminine genius and how women can engage in the world, be in the world, and be totally who they are as women, and not be feel like they have to try and be something they're not to get ahead, or to be successful, or to be, you know, more worthwhile. So, getting my notes. With Verily, you know, I started the magazine. I started talking about this idea to a girlfriend of mine. We were at brunch, and she was working on Wall Street, actually. She's really smart. Complete opposite of me. Not that I'm not smart, but she's like a go-getter businesswoman, was rocking it on Wall Street, was being really successful, just a couple years older than me. We were good friends, and I told her about this idea, and she's like, wow, why don't we do that? Why don't we just start a new magazine? All the things that you're talking about. And I thought, not now. I need like 10 more years so I get more experience. I'm not ready to do this. She's like, no, let's just do it right now. I'm like, okay. And I remember I met up with her the next night, and we started planning Verily. That was 2 years ago. We spent a long time researching exactly how we wanted to go about this. And we happen to be Catholic. And we really spent a lot of time thinking, gosh, do we want to bring our faith and the truths of, I mean, if you think about it, the Catholic faith is based on faith and reason. A lot of it's reason-based. You don't really have to necessarily be Catholic to kind of agree with some of these ideas. And so we actually decided Verily is a secular publication. It's not Catholic at all. I know a lot of people are confused about it, like, oh, is it a Catholic magazine? It's actually not. And we have a team of a lot of Catholic girls, but not all of them are. And we really are just trying to provide an alternative space for women in 4 departments: style, lifestyle, culture, and relationships. Like, yeah, that's in the magazine. And so what we're doing is that we're actually it's a subtle change. We're changing the conversation. It's a very simple thing, but in relationships, we're actually providing real content, real relationship advice, and not just with the opposite sex, but with yourself, your family, your friends. We're so much more integrated, and our lives are so much more than just how to get and please a man. A lot of fashion, too, for me, I'm the style editor, so that's kind of my main work. That's my whole mission for me is to really just show and not tell. And I am trying to, because I was really affected by those images that we just heard about, how hard it is to see over and over again what's beautiful, what's sexy, and it's not real. It's highly photoshopped. It's usually very sickly young women, and it's a product that they make, they fashion. It's not real. I mean, think what goes into photo productions. And when you see, fashion spreads, a lot of it's Photoshop, and a lot of it's just production. So my main mission is I really want to show a range of women, all different types of women, real women, plus size models. And by plus size, I mean a size 6 or above. I'm considered a plus size model in the industry. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So I'm really dedicated to showing plus size models, and really they're just healthy, happy women, which is shocking to see, I think, and it really speaks a lot. As well as just I really want to empower women to get to know their own worth and dress in a way that reflects that, and by featuring fashion that complements their dignity rather than compromise it. Because it's a very fine line, and I think a lot of us don't really know. We want to know more. We want to be, of course, we want to be beautiful, and we want to attract, and that's not a bad thing. And I think a lot of people are like, well, you're doing a fashion magazine. Isn't that kind of silly? Like, well, no, women still love beautiful things, and we want to be inspired. And we want a place to go where we feel free and accepted to be who we are and not feel like we're not enough. and have real conversations, the conversations we already are having with our girlfriends over brunch. Instead of we're already having these conversations, and yet we still, I think, unconsciously are affected by what we're reading and seeing in the media, especially magazines. So, checking my time here. Oh, okay, I'm good. I think I do actually have a fun story. It's kind of jumping around a bit, but I think the difference between, at least for my section, I produce all the photo shoots, and I run the entire style section, and I had to kind of figure this out as I went. I was not trained to do this, and I had to learn as I go. But I remember the first photo shoot I did, really had no idea what I was doing or what I was getting into. And this is just a story to kind of explain where women are at in some ways. A model that we were fitting clothes on, we were trying all these different clothes on her, and I remember her coming out of the dressing room like this. She was like, "You're not going for sexy at all, are you?" And I was like, no, that's actually not the point of why you're here or what we're doing. And I remember she just felt so, and these were great clothes. It was a gorgeous skirt and top, and we put her in another dress, and she's like, "This is really bad, and I don't feel," she's like, "Do you have anything like shorter or tighter or better?" She's like, "I just really love my body, and I think I really want to feel, I don't feel sexy in this at all." She was like frantic about it, and we're like, "Whoa, first of all, models shouldn't even say that because we're hiring you. Second, like, I remember I was so like affronted by her reaction. I thought, I was probably in a little bit of a bubble. I was kind of off my high of my reconversion, this idea of modesty, and it's like, oh yeah, the reality is most women don't feel beautiful unless they're showing more. And that's that whole confusion between being sexy and being beautiful. Women are inherently sexy. You don't have to prove it. I think we need to reclaim beauty and true beauty. Sorry, I'm throwing that word around a lot, but it's not in the best sense of the word, anyway. So, and to kind of, I remember being in tears about that, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this. This girl just flipped out on me, and she's all upset. I'm like, how are we really going to speak this message in Verily and actually do this well? And I remember I think a year later, I was in LA for another photo shoot. This was last spring. And we're a bit more established now. I think I know a little bit more of what I'm doing, sort of. And one of the models comes up to me and she goes, "Are you in the magazine?" And this is like, we're still just starting off. I mean, not a lot of people know about us. And I go, yeah, I am. She just gives me a big hug. And I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you too." And she gives me a big hug and she says, "Thank you." And I hadn't talked to her. I was like, I don't even know if she knew what Verily was. I mean, we're a new publication. She goes, I read your mission statement, but when I got booked for this job, I went to your website and I read what you guys are about, and I just want to say thank you. And I went back through her book. I have to go through models' lookbooks a lot, and it's really hard because a lot of it is pornographic. A lot of the work that they do is really hard to see. And I went through her book and I realized all of the work that she had really done, a lot of it was really objectifying and putting her in compromising situations. And so for her to come on set to meet us and for us to be like happy and treat her like a person and all of us to have a good time, that whole difference is kind of at the core of what Verily is trying to do differently from the bottom up. I mean, from my experience from Elle and how vicious and negative of a cycle it was, I wanted to do something completely different with Verily, with the editorial staff, as well as how we treat I mean, it's just we're living our lives how we want to live them and treating people how we want to be treated. And I think it's not just on the pages, it's in the work that we do with the people and who we're working with. And it's really, I just love those two stories because they're so telling, I think, of not just the modeling industry, but I think a lot of our stories as women and what we feel and where our worth is wrapped up in. And so, and to kind of end it, I think a broken record already, but with Verily, I really am wanting to invite women to come to a space to be free, to have real conversations, to be uplifted and built up, and to be affirmed in their worth without having to say it, because a lot of times that language doesn't really translate if you're not really there yet. But by just having real conversations and treating women with respect as a friend, I'm really trying to help them to live, love, and relate in a way that reflects their understanding of their own worth. I know I needed that in college. I needed someone to look up to, or another signpost for me to look to in the midst of my struggle. And so that's exactly what we're doing with Verily.